All right, guys. So we got a PS5 that's on a repair bench that we're getting absolutely no power. It's completely dead. And I want to show you guys how to be able to fix an issue like this. Now, this could be done for a number of reasons on why your game console is not receiving any power on these PS5s. It could be due to a faulty power supply issue, or it could be due to a short on the motherboard. I tend to always get the shorter end of the stick, and it's usually something on the motherboard that's shorted out, and it's not typically as something as easy as just replacing the power supply, which is what a lot of people will want. But let's go over to the upper cam. Let's see what's going on, and we can go from there. All right, so as you guys can see, we got this PS5. And this is the PS5 fat model. As you can tell, I have my multimeter set up right here. And the reason why I have my multimeter set up right here is so we can be able to find these shorts. Now, I've already diagnosed this issue already, and I decided to actually record a video after I was like, okay, this is an issue I haven't uploaded or showed you guys about, but I know what this is. Now, when I come in here and if I'm receiving no power, the first thing I do is I plug it in, and I would typically do that while the console is still fully, pretty much almost together, because we could put this right here. Let's go to voltage readings in DC, and you can see I'm getting 12.11 volts, which is exactly what we're getting, but we will still receive no power. Also, another thing I would do too is I always have an extra one of these PCB boards right here where you can press the power button. As you can see, it's disconnected right now, but you can be able to get a power read to see if it's sometimes the PCB board, which I've never had before. So, but it's always worth a try. And I start running some tests on the motherboard, and one of the tests I run is I see if I receive a short on either of these two diodes above here. Usually it's the one on the left, and I'm going to put this in continuity mode. I got black probe on ground, and as you can see up top, customers calling in. Give me 1 second. So it's usually always this left diode. As you can see, I'm receiving a short up top. At the bottoms, usually don't get a short because that will usually be coming straight from the actual connector itself. The right one, I'm getting no short, but on the left, I'm getting a short. So we come up here. I test these power inductors right underneath the Southbridge. So let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can get a better view. So I'm kind of pointing. You can see these right here are power inductors. If any of these are getting any shorts from either side, then the Southbridge has gone out. Now, I already know these are not short out because these are the main power inductors, but this is where I received a short, not from up here, but from down there. So I'm getting a short from this cap coming from this inductor, and there's not supposed to be a short there. And also here. So I got a short here and just on this side, but both sides over here, but there's supposed to be no shorts. So that lets me know that the Southbridge has gone out. And typically, if you have a short on the Southbridge, you'll usually come from like one of these main power inductors from over here. And if it does, typically you won't receive a short near the power eject connector. There usually won't be a short there, but I've noticed that every time I receive a short on the power eject side, it's usually always something going on in Southbridge. So let's go ahead and remove this Southbridge off this motherboard, and after we remove it, we're going to test for shorts, see if we're still receiving a short. And if that's the case, I already have another Southbridge that I removed from another PCB board that we can be able to get put onto this board. So let's get that done. All right, so this is where our Southbridge is on the board. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna remove it, and I'm not gonna use my reball machine to remove it because I could just remove it with my heat wand and just some flux, heat wand and flux. Anytime I put the Southbridge on, I just use my reball machine just so the board won't warp, because the board would tend to like come up like that. And if that happens, then the solder balls won't sit right, and you'll end up a bigger pop room than what you started off with. This is the type of tip that I'm going to use on this one right here for my solder iron. And give me 1 second. I'm going to show you guys my heat wand. All right, so I have my heat wand set for 500. I also have my BGA suction pin. This is so I can be able to take it directly off. Don't be that person and try to use tweezers on this, because then you'll just doesn't really work out too well. I always have better luck just using these suction pins. So as you can see, I got the biggest tip on my heat wand, and I'm heating it up in circles like this. And I'm gonna allow it to be able to lift off. So let's get this done. All right, so as you can see, I got the Southbridge lifted. I'm gonna set the Southbridge onto the side. And now what we are going to do is go in and remove all this. Sorry, move the camera a little bit. We're going to go in and remove all this solder all around here so we could get it prepped for our new Southbridge. All right, guys, so we got the old Southbridge taken off, and I'll show you guys where it's at. Here it is right here. Now, let me show you exactly where we're at. So you can see this diode over here. I'm going to go directly up top, and I am receiving no shorts, as you can see. Nothing. So now let's go over to the Southbridge. Now, it's supposed to receive no continuity up here. So let's see. Everything is good. No continuity, and no continuity up here. Bam. And all the shorts are gone. So that lets me know for a fact that this Southbridge right here is actually bad. I have a good Southbridge that was on another motherboard that I took off. I already removed all the excess solder off of it. It's on my BGA reball jig. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this motherboard back over, and we are going to clean off all of that solder on the other side of the board and prep it for the Southbridge. So let's go over. All right, so we're back over. Let's get all of this taken off. Here is all of the flux, and the type of flux that I use is Amtech flux. This is 559 to be exact. If you want to see exactly what I'm using, just go down to the description and you can see all the tools and everything that I'm using. So I'm going to tin my solder tip with some leaded solder. This is all low melt solder. And we're going to go around and spread this solder all over the place. This helps lower the melting temperature of all of the solder on here. So when we go through with our desolder braid, we can be able to get everything up without any issues. All right, guys, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to take our desolder braid, go in, we're going to go around like so, and get everything desoldered. All right, guys, so as you can see, everything is cleaned up. All the solder Everything looks good, no complaints. So now the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go over to our BGA reball jig and going ahead and get this get our new Southbridge prepared to get put on here. I already cleaned up the other Southbridge, so all I would need to do is just put the solder balls on there, and that should be it. So let's get that done. All right, guys, so here is my Southbridge. As you can see, I already took all the excess solder off. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a little bit of 559 Amtech flux on it. I'm going to spread it around with my finger, and you want to make sure you spread it as thin as possible because it doesn't take much to get this soldered on. So let's keep on spreading this. Now we are going to put our stencil on here. And I already lined up the stencil with everything, so it should be good. Let's see. Yep. So here's our stencil. And I'm just actually going to move it around just a little bit more just to get it a little bit more even. And then I'm going to put my solder balls in. All right, so here we are. Got the stencil a lot more even. What I like to do is, first off, I always thoroughly clean my stencils. I wipe them down with 99% IPA. And I'm going to take my 5mm solder balls. I'm going to put it on the edge. And the reason why I put it on the edge is because you want to make sure whatever solder balls get in the actual stencil can flow around freely and not get stuck, like so. So as you can see, we're flowing around, and everything is almost good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the solder balls and I'm going to put them back into the container. Still got a little bit more, but what we're going to do is first off, we're going to lift up very slowly. Now we have all of our solder balls perfectly on our BGA chip. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my hot plate and we're going to get this soldered into place. All right, guys, so we have our Southbridge fully reballed. I put my heat plate at 265 to get it heated up. All my solder balls are melted. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to my reball machine, which is a WDX 620. We're going to apply just a little bit of flux and then spread it around with our finger so we can be able to get our new Southbridge flowed on to the board. So let's go over there. Let's go get that done. Here's our new Southbridge. What I do is I take a little bit of IPA and I just squirt it in there. And what this does is this gets any excess flux from underneath, because if there's any extra flux underneath, then it will not work. Then just spray it away with my air compressor. And now let's see if we get power. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my bench power supply over here. Let's get my alligator clips hooked up so we can test it out. So we have our alligator clips ready to go. And I'm going to touch red probe on power. All right. 300 milliamps back down to 9 milliamps. That looks like a normal boot sequence. So I am certain that this should now work. All right, guys. So I put it all back together. And we should be good now. We got that Southbridge replaced, so everything should be working just fine. Let's go over to the upper cam, see if we get power. Oh, we actually get power. We got the blue light. Let's see if we get anything on the screen. Let's see. Sorry, I got a lot of cables and whatnot in the way. Okay, there it is. There it is. We got a screen. Everything is working. All right, got my, let me connect my controller. It's still connecting. There we go. All right, yeah, and they got Sparking Zero. That's a good game. So yeah, looks like this one is good to go. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you're going ahead, smash that like button. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. But besides that, I'm going to shoot this customer call and get this shit back out to them, and we should be good to go. But besides that, I hope to see you guys on the flip side. See ya.